Ever wonder how far power can go when it's fueled by pure fear? Some leaders didn't just rule, they crushed anyone who stood in their way. One king turned an entire country into his private death camp. Another lined roads with thousands of impaled bodies just to send a message. And one conqueror, he built pyramids out of skulls. These aren't legends, they're real. And in this countdown, we'll reveal the 10 most ruthless leaders in history, including the one whose shadow still darkens our world today. Number 10. Leopold II of Belgium. King of Belgium. Master of a hidden empire. But this was no ordinary colony. It was his personal kingdom of terror. Rubber quotas meant death. Entire villages vanished. Families torn apart. Millions perished. And yet, in Europe, he was celebrated as a modernizer. What drove him to this? His cruelty was driven by greed. Wealth measured in rubber, paid for in blood. How does a king polish his crown with blood? Leopold never faced justice. His palaces gleamed, while the Congo bled. And where he hid his cruelty, our next ruler flaunted it in full view of the world. Number 9. Vlad The Impaler. Even his nickname drips with terror. He didn't just defeat enemies, he displayed them. Entire roads lined with bodies, impaled for all to see. Not dozens, thousands. It wasn't madness, it was theater. Fear as his greatest weapon. So powerful, entire armies retreated before battle even began. Why? He believed that ruling through horror was the surest way to keep his enemies, and even his own people, under control. His legend gave birth to Dracula. But the truth? Reality was darker than any myth. And centuries later, another leader would try something just as chilling, erasing history itself. Number 8. Pol Pot. Year Zero. That was the promise. Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge forced cities to empty overnight. Streets silent, schools abandoned. Families marched into the countryside with nothing. The result? Nearly 2 million dead in less than 4 years. Teachers, doctors, even children. No one was spared. Why? His obsession with ideological purity was so extreme, he believed knowledge itself had to die. Imagine a nation where knowledge itself was a crime. The world only saw the scale of the horror after his regime fell, but by then, the damage was done. And if Pol Pot tried to erase history, our next figure made sure his name was carved into it forever. 7. Attila the Hun. They called him the Scourge of God. But to his enemies, Attila was something worse. Unstoppable. When Rome refused his demands for gold, cities burned, crops torched, survivors scattered into forests and deserts. Entire regions left in ruins. Here's the terrifying part. Sometimes he didn't even need to fight. Whispers of his approach were enough to make whole cities surrender. So what was really behind it? For Attila, reputation itself was the weapon. Every burned city, every terrified survivor was part of the legend he wanted Europe to believe. That resistance was hopeless. What happens when your reputation is deadlier than your sword? Attila's reign was brief but unforgettable. And centuries later, Russia would face a ruler who carried terror into the very heart of his own people. Number 6. Ivan the Terrible. Tsar. Builder of empire. Master of terror. Ivan IV created Russia's first secret police. They rode black horses. They carried dog heads on their saddles. Their mission? Eliminate anyone he distrusted. He executed nobles, destroyed towns, and in a fit of rage, even killed his own son. Paranoia ruled more than policy. Why? Ivan's cruelty came from deep paranoia. He trusted no one, and his fear of betrayal consumed him. Ivan left Russia bigger, yes, but scarred. And centuries later, another revolutionary would leave scars so deep they covered a nation. Number 5. Mao Zedong. A revolutionary turned ruler of the world's largest nation. Mao Zedong's great leap forward triggered famine. Tens of millions starved. Later, the Cultural Revolution turned citizens against one another. Neighbors betrayed neighbors. Students attacked teachers. Entire traditions were wiped away. Why? Mao believed the old world had to be destroyed before a new China could rise. We've seen rulers who ruled by fear. We've seen them destroy their enemies. But the next names on our list didn't just use terror as a weapon, they built entire empires out of it. We're halfway through our countdown, but the darkest stories are still to come. Number 4. Tamerlane. Timur. Timur didn't just conquer cities, he erased them. In Delhi, Baghdad, Aleppo, towers of skulls rose where marketplaces once stood. Historians estimate his campaigns killed over 17 million. Why such cruelty? Because terror was his strategy. Cities fell before a single arrow was fired. Timur turned cruelty into psychological warfare on an imperial scale. By leaving mountains of skulls behind, he didn't just win battles, he controlled the memory of conquest itself. But where Timur left ruins, our next leader built an entire system of fear. Number 3. Joseph Stalin. Comrade Stalin is always right. Those words weren't devotion, they were survival. His purges sent millions to gulags. His paranoia erased rivals from photographs as if they never existed. Neighbors disappeared overnight. Entire families erased from records. Imagine living in a world where even a whisper could kill you. He turned fear into a system. Factories rose, railways spread, but 20 million lives were the cost. Why? Stalin's ruthlessness came from paranoia and obsession with absolute control. Power mattered more than lives. And though Stalin defeated Hitler, his own reign mirrored the same darkness. Number 2. Adolf Hitler. Before he led armies, he painted postcards. But rejection turned into rage, and rage became a global catastrophe. Hitler's rise turned ideology into annihilation. The Holocaust murdered 6 million Jews alongside millions more. His wars engulfed the planet, leaving 70 million dead. Here's the part often missed. He didn't just command soldiers, he commanded belief, convincing millions that destruction was destiny. Why? Hitler's cruelty was driven by ideology, a twisted vision of racial purity that demanded annihilation. What happens when ideology becomes a weapon deadlier than any bomb? Yet even Hitler's brutality followed a path carved centuries earlier. Number 1. Genghis Kahn. One man from the steppes of Mongolia reshaped half the world. Genghis Khan united tribes, then unleashed them across Asia and Europe. Historians estimate his campaigns killed 40 million, the population of entire nations erased. Why? For Genghis, terror was a tool of conquest, shock and awe that shattered resistance before battles even began. Yet here's the paradox. The same man who leveled cities also built the trade routes that connected them. Ruthless? Absolutely. But his legacy still shapes borders, nations, and the very map of our world today. 10 rulers. 10 legacies of terror. Each left behind more than power, they left scars on humanity itself. And history forces us to ask, what drives a person to such extremes? If these were the most ruthless leaders of the past, who might history judge the same way in our own time? Which of these leaders do you think was the most ruthless? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this countdown, hit subscribe. We've got even darker stories from history coming next week.